So I wanted to record this video off the back of the quick startup guide for VibeCoding. For those of you out there that are not technical, don't have a programming background, because I know you want to get something up and running that's useful for your business. But a lot of the time we go out in multiple different directions. We see all the fancy UIs that have been built and all the fancy apps, and we go off in the wrong direction because there's so much complexity in that you end up building stuff that breaks, that doesn't work, that's got loads of bugs, that takes too much time, too much effort, and not much reward out the end of it. So the reason I've put together this quick presentation, which I also used AI to build, was just to kind of highlight some of the things that I've built over the last 2 months to give you some inspiration as to what you can build. These are quick wins. These are things that I use daily or weekly, and they didn't take too much time to build. And the idea here is that because there's so much opportunity that AI unlocks, it's actually about the real skill is in focusing on what are the critical components in your day-to-day that you can start to leverage AI with that will help you along your way, rather than going for that big, ambitious, audacious project. We just want to focus on the small little things that don't require too much complexity so we can get things up and running, these agents up and running that will help us immediately and can be built in a short amount of time. So what we'll cover in this is a few different areas in sales and marketing. One is inbound, so content repurposing agent. Two is outbound, so scraping, campaign copy agents, campaign push creation agents, bespoke prospecting agents, and sales ops, which is closing. So looking at call briefs, intro briefs, and business use case builders. So to start off with, I'll go through the inbound content repurposer, because this is something that I built first off the back of like the actual true thing that I built that was actually useful in the first instance. Because prior to this, what I would do with my podcast transcript is I'd upload it to Claude, but then I'd have to type in every single type of asset that I would need to create. So I'd have to go backwards and forwards with it to manipulate what I would want. But I knew what I wanted each time. And yeah, I could go out and build like a project, but the problem with a project is that it's not creating the assets that I want to see, and they're not easily visual. So I can't just edit them quickly. They like create the document, and then I have to download the document, and then I would have to edit it. So there's just a few little nuances that just made it a useful use case for me to automate. So what I did was I decided on what are the outputs that I wanted, which was the articles, the LinkedIn carousels, the listicles, the YouTube headline and description. And I gave it some examples that I liked. And off the back of this, I was able to create a skill that with one command, I could upload the transcript. And then from there, immediately it would produce all of these in their own separate documents, which I could edit within Obsidian straight away. So it sped up the process by probably from an hour to 15 minutes. So this was really useful. And again, I just started off small. I didn't then connect it to an API to then post on my socials, but I could do that. But the idea here was just to build something that I could actually use in the VS Code terminal, that I could just, whenever I had a podcast, upload it and get some output that was useful for me. Next, I moved on to some of the campaign setup. So a lot of the time we're running campaigns for our clients. One of the things we do is look at scrapers. So this was something that I did recently off the back of some of Eric's work. So he's well known in the GTM space. But essentially it goes out there, scrapes posts, the post engagement from company posts and personal profiles. And it's just a great way to create some highly targeted lists that you can go out to and reach out to. The second was campaign copy. So we've got different playbooks, both indirect and direct, based on our methodologies. And I created a system where I could basically speak to it and decide on the playbook I want, and then it would create some versions of that and I could edit it. And last was campaign push. So we use something called Smart Lead for our email campaigns. And rather than going in and having to set up the email campaign, like say, copy and paste the content in and set the time and the date and just use the UI to do all of that, I just got one command to just push it in, and it would update it all automatically. It also updated our Airtable, so I had reference to all the campaigns. So again, all of these things, not too complicated. Like they didn't require more than one API connection. So I used Rapid API for the the scraping utility. And then I used the Smart Lead API for the campaign push utility. But it sped up my process, my day-to-day process. It meant that I can launch campaigns quicker with a command. I can create a campaign and launch a campaign in the same window. Next was this one. This one was quite interesting because it's very unique, but it's like when you're browsing LinkedIn, sometimes you want to send a manual message to someone, but you have to wait to connect with them. And sometimes you forget who you connected with. And then when you get round to it or you just forget about it, you don't end up messaging the person. And you might message them once, but you need to really follow up with them a couple times. So and then if you use automation, you don't get the personalization you want because you're pretty much putting them into a campaign. So you kind of want the best of both worlds. So what I was able to do here is hook up the APIs for our automation tool so I could benefit from the automation, but I was able to grab a profile URL and speak to the interface, VS Code, to tell it what I wanted to say in the messages. And it would create the messages for me. I could edit it and then it would push to that campaign, which was a bespoke campaign. Each message was different and unique and specific to the person I'm going out to. And this has gotten great response rates because it is a one-of-one message and it's very unique to the person and individual. But I'm not spending all my time trying to chase them and follow up with them. I'm just identifying good opportunities and pushing them into the system. And next is the pre-call research brief. So this is awesome because a lot of the time you can spend looking at someone's profile, their posts, their company page, looking at the news. It takes a lot of time. It can take up to half an hour. This I just run and it goes through all the information that I need to look at. And because it's got context to my business, it then provides me insights and information that is useful and interesting to me. And some of the stuff I would never pick up. And again, this was very easy to build. I just literally said, it was quite surprising, this one, because I just said, Claude, can you build this research agent? This is what I want in it. And then it went out. I didn't actually connect this to any APIs, but it's just been able to grab some really useful information. I can only imagine what it would do if I started connecting it to certain databases out there to grab even more information. But as it stands, it does the job. It gives me information on my next call immediately, and it's a one pager that I can understand and just be better prepped for the call, understand a bit more about the business without having to shift and look at tabs and figure out what they do. The intro debrief was also useful, and this is where I started to get a bit more in depth with API connections. I used 2 API connections here, which was that after a call, I basically wanted the tool to go out, look at my last transcript, write up my notes and then push it into my CRM and then craft an email so that I could look at it and decide if I need to edit it and then send it out to the person, but my CRM stays up to date. This is notorious for any sales rep out there. It's so difficult to keep your CRM up to date. Also, you've got note takers, but they don't format the information as you want and pick up the information you want. So it just gives you generic information. This way I had all my information structured and I was able to push it off the back of a call into my CRM automatically and basically draft an email that I could tweak to my liking. And again, use this all the time. It wasn't too difficult to set up because it was only 2 APIs. And again, you're hearing here, no user interfaces. I'm not building a user interface. I'm just getting used to single line prompts that I can use that help increase my input and productivity. The business use case builder was, again, looking at all of my transcripts for a specific individual. So I just pop in the email and then it would just, again, with my context, with my case studies or my company, it would produce a business use case. And this was really powerful because sometimes you're speaking to stakeholders, but you're not speaking to all of them. And they need to be able to champion your product internally. So you want to kind of consolidate all that you've spoken about into a one pager, and this does just that. So it gives me that document, it gives the economic breakdowns of why it's important for them, and then I can tweak it again based on what I feel is right, but it gets me 80% of the way there. So again, really useful, really powerful. And I just launch it off the back of one single email that I input into the system, and it does all the work of grabbing the transcripts. Prior to this, I'd have to download the transcripts, upload it into an AI, speak to the AI and give it my reference. So this just sped up the process. And again, because it creates its own document, I open up Obsidian and I can edit it directly straight away. And then it can be pushed as a Notion, as a PDF, as a Google Doc, whatever you want, even as a presentation, if you so wish. So that's kind of the main use cases that I've been using. The tier one high impacts have been the call brief, the content repurpose, the business use case. Tier two have been the campaign stacks. I'd even push the intro brief into tier one. The bespoke prospect, I haven't used it as much as the rest, but it is super. I mean, the response rates on that have been amazing. So it's just something that's really simple to put together and has a massive impact on the bottom line. So I guess the end point here is that building the skills is easy. It's literally you just speaking into a computer. The hard part is the utility, is actually building and creating something that you're going to use day in, day out. A lot of tech companies struggle from this. It's actually the adoption, not the building of the project, that is the hardest part. So you need to train yourself not only to build a skill, but to use it and then refine it. So then it becomes an integral part of your stack. Because what can happen is you can build 100 tools and skills and you just forget which ones because they're just not embedded and you're not using them, and you're so busy building new things that you're not taking advantage of the things you have built and just refining them. So sometimes it's about the very few high impact skills you build that you use day in, day out, that's going to make the biggest difference. And that's what I think you should take away from this, and hopefully some inspirations from some of these use cases that I've run through.